This is a press briefing by concerned northerners who, after observing the trend of event nationally as it affects our collective existence as a country, we decided to come together. The feeling, the aspiration, and the thinking of the people of the 19 northern states as we view it. The text is going to be read by our mother, Hajia Najatu Mohammed. Hajia, Bismillah.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this is a press conference organized by concerned northerners. The nation woke up on the 28th of March to the horrifying news of a gruesome massacre in which about 16 people from northern part of the country were massacred in a very savagery manner that is reminiscent to the barbarism of the old Roman Empire. We have noted that since the event, leaders have issued the usual condemnation, and security agencies have announced the commencement of investigations, and community leaders have risen up to speak on the atrocity. But even as this was happening, some reckless parochial local champions have continued to insult the North and deride its people, fabricating lies and spreading mischief on the incidents. This is a very familiar scene in the last 2 decades. We are here to tell Nigerians that this incident is one too many and will no longer be tolerated. We are speaking after due consultations with the Northern Elders Forum and the Arewa Consultative Forum and some northern professionals, and precisely because we have restrained our youth from reacting and retaliating. For the records, this is not the first time that northerners have been targeted and killed under several guises and excuses. We recall the event of March 2016, where at the Mile 12 crisis, where northerners were killed. In the same 2016, another massacre of innocent Hausa traders and settlers in Port Harcourt were killed. In December 2019, in Akure Market, is the Akure Market killing, where northerners were killed. In Oyo State, at the Iganga, is the Iganga killings in June 2021, where northerners were killed and their properties were destroyed. In April 2021, in Imo State, dozens of northern traders and cattle herders were slaughtered in cold blood by some armed bandits. In all of these incidences, the North restrained itself, even as they are far more larger in population than Southerners. In all these incidences, the North restrained itself, even as they are far more larger populations of these Southerners enjoying in the North. They are growing their businesses, making money off Northerners, all without any form of harassment. The North is not stupid. We can no longer allow a situation where our people are hunted down like game, while the same tribes are welcomed in the North, enjoying hospitality and making money off Northerners. This government and the ones it succeeded have also shown that they neither have the will or the capacity to deal with the threats to human life in Nigeria. The country has become a killing zone as they sit there and supervise the sharing of national resources meant to provide for the welfare and security of our citizens. As a result, citizens daily face precarious hazards as they work hard just to eke a living. In other words, our governments are in the habit of ignoring their constitutional duties and taking care of themselves and their fantasies, while citizens who voted for them in the first place rot away in penury and anguish as if they have no conscience at all. This is, to say the least, is a political blasphemy, and it has its consequences. As certain as death, it will come when it will come. We therefore need to remind this government that in the hierarchy of human needs, human life comes first. They have sworn to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which categorically and explicitly stated that the purpose of governance is the welfare and security of its citizens. We need to remind this government that they are here basking in power courtesy of the votes from the North. We need to remind this government and its security agencies that their excuses for their failure to secure this country has long been unattainable, and citizens will not continue to take these excuses kindly. Finally, these killings of Northerners and the deriding of the North have aggravated and amplified the national question. If Northerners are still citizens of the Nigerian state, then they must be accorded the rights and privileges of citizens in any part of the Nigerian Federation. If, however, the Nigerian state is not willing or ready to accord Northerners their rights and privileges as citizens, then Northerners will have no option, will have no obligation towards the Nigerian state. The Nigerian state, like any modern state, is sustained by the social contract, like as John Locke's theory of social contract says, and I quote, that the obligation to obey civil government under the social contract was conditional upon the protection of the natural rights of each person, unquote. So if the state should fail, we have no obligation to obey or even continue the union. The North has continued to make sacrifices to keep the union. It looks like it is time to throw in the towel. While we still appeal to our youth for restraint, this time we shall keep our fingers crossed and mount a sentinel to monitor the investigation promised and the prosecution of those arrested and the payment of the compensation to the families of those who lost their lives, because the people they elected failed to live up to the oath of office to the tenets of the Constitution. Thank you.
Internal crisis from the North here has led to we Northerners, I'm also from the North, being disrespected over there. Our activities, how we go about them, we see in Zamfara, for example, Muslim versus Muslims, Fulanis versus Hausas, Fulanis versus Fulanis, Hausas versus Hausas, the kidnapping, the senseless killings. We see what happened in Jos, was it yesterday, or the day before yesterday, so not just late, where about 11 people were killed. We also saw the example of, let's say, what happened to Deborah, which has caused a lot of reactions on the way Deborah died. So how do we get to address these issues? Can you come together and do something more elaborate on this, on the internal crisis we have in the North in the first place? Before we think of, we understand that the national level is there, the government has to do something because they are the government. It's their sole responsibility to protect the people, to make sure that this does not happen again. But how do we address that of the internal crisis we have in this country? Thank you.
Your name and address.
Your name,
please.
My name is Ivan Magoni. I work with IAPC.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you raised a very germane and a fundamental issue. But let me enlighten you that the group of concerned northerners had been involved in stimulating conversation in the north as to how to deal with a plethora of these challenges. And this effort indeed yielded positive results when the northern governors and the traditional rulers met in Kaduna and took far-reaching decisions as to how to deal with these issues. But don't forget that national security lies within the constitutional purview of the national government. Therefore, all subnational efforts mobilized to deal with this issue goes to nothing if there is no refined cooperation flowing from the federal government to complement this. And this is where the 19 northern states today face as challenges.
And FCT.
And yes, and FCT face as challenges. We made references to some of the horrific killings that are ongoing or took place within the north, which as a people, as at when they happen, we came out, we condemn. Not only condemning, we have also taken steps to ensure that we deal with the issue of the infiltration of northern community by sponsoring political disagreement and sometimes religious disagreement just to sustain this narrative that, oh, it's not well with the north, and so the north should not complain about what is happening. And this is why we are here today, to make a categorical statement that when you sight a snake in your house and suddenly the snake disappears, we are not going to embark on massive destruction of the house because you want to find a snake. You will have to be calm to create a decoy of a peaceful environment for the snake to emerge so that you can deal with it. That is not to say when an arsonist approach your house with a gallon of petrol, you will pretend that you are dealing with the snake question, and so your house will be set ablaze. So the north, with what has happened in Edo, we have made references to these killings, and to us in the north is already a pattern. And that's why we conclude by saying that all these sum up together raise the fundamental national question, which we have put it now at the doorstep of the federal government to consider it. Well, what I have basically put across is that we are appealing to the youth, the restive youth in the north, who by virtue of what has happened in Uromi are calling for reprisal. And I stated that the mere fact that all of us seated here are supposed to be in our comfort zone celebrating Salah with our families, but we are here gathered in Abuja, convey how we appreciate how serious this issue is. We are saying that this is not just mere normal press briefing. We are going to back up whatever we have stated here with action. We are going to deliver a letter thereafter to the Edo State Government Lodge to be conveyed to the governor about what we expect of this situation. A very transparent investigation. The suspect should be paraded, because the suspect had also identified themselves by the videos they produced and sent online. So they are known. We were saying that this transparent investigation will lead to accountability, and that in the final analysis, Edo State government will have to pay compensation for the lives of these 16 innocent people that died in transit. And we are saying that our people should consider what has happened as a challenge to our faith and of the citizens of the North everywhere. Finally, we are also calling on the federal government that as long as they will try to resolve this national question, they should guarantee the safety of lives of Northerners living anywhere in the country, while we appeal to our people to continue to demonstrate this hospitality.
Top of the day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here on a very, very sad note. Wallahi, yesterday and day before yesterday, when I saw the pictures, the gruesome pictures of the individuals that were unalived in Bokos, I wept for my country. Not just Bokos, in Ehamofu and also Adani in Enugu State. It is very, very unfortunate that these things are happening. These headsmen, I don't understand how somebody is going to compare the life of a cow to a life of a human being. Who does that? Let's assume something happens to the headsmen. Why would you take the laws into your hands? This is not the first time you people are doing this thing. I worked in Enugu for 5 years. I worked under the Enugu State Peace and Security Committee. There is no local government in Enugu that I have not been to, trying to curb this menace between farmers and herders. I've been to all these places, from Nkerefi in Ogu to Adani, Isuzo, Uzuwani, Udi, Igwetiti, Igwezi. You understand? I've been to all these places, Oba Nsuka, because I was with the Enugu State Peace and Security Committee that was constituted by the former governor, Right Honorable Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi. We go into these villages, we see the destruction that these headsmen usually do and cause. So my problem is, what is wrong with the security architectures of these states? For how long? These headsmen attacks have been consistent for the past decade. I can remember the attack in Dogona in Jos. So I wonder, children that do not know anything about whatever it is, I wonder how you are going to take your cows close to somebody's farm, destroy the person's farm. Though I know sometimes the reaction from the farmer sometimes is harsh, of which I understand. It's difficult for you to put ones and twos together, farm, and then see it destroyed. But I wonder how this will now result to you coming back in the night and destroying a whole community, unaliving a whole community, unaliving over 100 people that know nothing about what transpired. For crying out loud, where is that done? Where is that done on this earth? Where is that done? Only in Nigeria. I saw the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Muftuanga. I would definitely applaud you, Mr. Governor, for your swift intervention in going to Bokos. I don't know what the Enugu State governor is doing about the Adani situation and that of Ehamofu. But I even saw the governor of Plateau State in Abuja trying to seal a deal with a security architecture about the surveillance, I think drones and some other things. But this has to stop. If you know what I experienced in Enugu, I'll find time and give you people. I have concrete details of what is happening between farmer and herders. I have details of the issues with the farmers. I have details of the issues with the herders. I think it's time we do something about this collectively. So if you condemn the killing of Deborah, now condemn the killing of the 16 people in Edo State, Uromi, and you're not condemning the killings in Bokos, then you are a hypocrite. What is wrong is wrong. You cannot side one particular people and you are expecting change. No. If you want to criticize constructively. That's just it. I'll be on the TikTok live this night, 9:30 p.m., 5th of April 2025, to discuss the massacre and unaliving of innocent souls in Adani, in Bokos, and the one of Ehamofu. Let's come on and discuss constructively and find a way out as concerned citizens of this country. Peace and love.
Without mincing words, let us be very honest. Nigeria is in dire straits. Nigerians are in a battle for survival. And if nothing else tells you the clear picture of what Nigerians are going through, few days ago, the presidential spokesperson or aide, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, put out a statement that the president is on his way to France for a 2-week working visit. And while in France, what the president is trying to do is to get an appraisal of his government and to retreat and reflect on his own reforms. Meaning, after spending money in 2024-2025 budget to renovate the presidential villa, the vice president's home, the president's house in Dodan Barracks in Lagos, and the vice president's home in Dodan Barracks, buying private jets, and in a country of 774 local governments, the commander-in-chief does not have a proper location in Nigeria to reflect, but the president jets out to reflect about his policies from a foreign country. The president wants to reflect about his policies and has yet to make a statement on the 30-day rant challenge of Nigerian youths calling for help, where the cost of living is killing the living. Tomorrow it is Uromi killing. Next tomorrow it is Benue, it is Ondo, it is Plateau. What exactly is going on in Nigeria is an outright lack of accountability. And that is why for this 30 days ranting challenge, it will not just end with ranting, it must be backed up with action. Nigerian youths need a system, an electoral system that can guarantee free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections so that you can be able to elect proper leaders. And that is what my own call to the president is. Thank God his aide said he is a Democrat. The hallmark of every democracy are free and fair elections. The president has to commit to that process in 2027, where people will not be beaten out of polling units like it happened in Lagos in 2023, so that Nigerian youths can begin to live and not just exist or struggle to survive. What exactly is there as an incentive to be Nigerian today? The institutions are almost stacked against you. Law enforcement is almost against you. The judicial system is not where you can go. The market is not what you can even afford. There is just sheer hopelessness across board. And that is what you are seeing us do in these 30 days. And if anybody as a leader is listening, then they should be taking practical steps to resolving these issues, most importantly guaranteeing a free, fair, and peaceful process in 2027, and that is what we must ensure. In response to the comments, let me just make it clear to you that one of the most difficult jobs in Nigeria or in the world today is speaking for or trying to defend the APC federal government. It is a very, very difficult thing to do because you know why? There is nothing there to defend. So you remember that the APC campaigned for 16 years of PDP misrule. In fact, this president was part of a protest called Occupy Nigeria when the then President Jonathan was trying to remove fuel subsidy, which he eventually have removed today, and yet the devil is in the detail in terms of implementation of sanitizing the oil sector and NNPC. So, and then by 2027, President Tinubu's administration will be 12 years, or APC will be 12 years put together. Imagine living in a government of renewed hope and experiencing the kind of unfortunate hopelessness that Nigeria is experiencing. So it is difficult for you to explain what the federal government, the APC-led government is doing, but I can give you some. A government that knows that more than 100 million persons were living in multi-dimensional poverty by the end of Buhari's administration came into power, and the first priorities were deciding to renovate a vice presidential home for 20-something billion, purchase of new private presidential jets, a presidential yacht, renovating the villa, money for purchase of SUVs for the office of the First Lady, which is not even a legally recognized, constitutionally recognized office. So when you see the frivolities and wastages in government, and then that same government in turn begins to ask the people to make sacrifices. So it is we who will think of what to do for our country, while the leaders continue to live in luxury and affluence using taxpayer money. Look at the National Assembly. Immediately they shared monies for themselves and purchased bulletproof SUVs, one for more than 160 million. Yet the minimum wage of that country is 70,000 naira. And that is a country where leaders are still demanding sacrifice from the people. So at what point does this sacrifice end? At what point does President Tinubu, his cabinet, the senators and his government begin to make sacrifices? The president is a former governor. He's on life pension from Lagos State. The vice president is a former governor. The senate president is a former governor. So with all the resources that are shared, 60% of Nigeria's corruption is administrative. Inflation of government contracts, budget padding. Who is sanitizing and fighting that corruption? But you cannot say anything because the government does not even feel beholden to the people. And that is why no matter how much Nigerians continue to cry, it falls on deaf ear. Why? Because they know that the electoral system can still be manipulated to rig people back into power, using also the Nigerian judiciary. So if I have the ears of any Nigerian politician right now, I will want them to know that power is transient. You cannot be in power forever. If you don't leave power, power will leave you. Nigerians are not demanding for too much. We only need a country to live. As a Nigerian youth, demanding for a better country, I'm not a criminal. There are known criminals that are not being attended to. But once you voice out against the government, they come after you. So Nigerians will decide, Nigerians must decide whether we want to live as slaves in this country or we want to live as freeborns. And that is why I'm telling you that this 30-day challenge must not end with just the 30-day rant. There must be maximum civil pressure on the authorities. Number one, we must reform our electoral process. That is the backbone of corrupt politicians. They know that they can meander their way into the public office without consequences and accountability. So if I'm talking to Nigerian politicians, I'm telling them, your time is up. You either do the right thing for this country or a generation of young Nigerian leaders will wake up and will succeed where you people have failed woefully and continue to fail us. Because Nigerians are hungry, Nigerians are dying, the tension is palpable and the frustration, and the leaders are completely detached from the reality. It is unfortunate, but we as Nigerians must find the wisdom and the courage to fix these institutions, or else we continue to remain victims of these institutions.
How do we move from here?
Let me just say that we will move from here by changing this narrative and building a system that can hold people accountable. And I take exception to the words of Doctor describing someone and something that I said as, being ignorant. You see, this grandstanding and high-handedness by the ruling party will take them nowhere. And that is why Nigeria is failing and is becoming a failed state under their watch. Because the only institutions or systems that are working in Nigeria is corruption and criminality. And also the statement that there are traits on this platform to corner people to asking questions. Arise News is one of the leading journalism houses that is trying to hold leaders accountable. And any attempt to ridicule, the capacity that they bring must be checked immediately, because this current administration does not like free speech. And before you know, they can bring the NBC against you. But let me just say this as a final parting statement.
Yes, 1 second.
Nigerians must make sure that we build a system that can hold our leaders accountable, which will begin with the electoral system, because that is their only arrogance.
Thank you so
much. They know that the INEC is a weapon fashion.
Thank you so much. We've run out.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we've run out. Change is never born from silence, and history has proven that when people rise and demand better, nations are forced to listen. The days of quiet suffering